If you love garlic as much as I do, you've probably planted it everywhere imaginable. And with summer now firmly underway, it's time for us to think about harvesting these precious bulbs. Often when you grow garlic in pots and containers, or in this case here, a herb planter, they mature a lot faster due to the increased heat. So let's look at how and when I harvest my container garlic, as well as 2 different ways to store it for future use. And it starts right now. Most garlic falls into 2 categories, all grown, harvested, and stored the same way. In your garden, you'll be growing either a hardneck garlic or a softneck one. As we've seen in the previous planting videos, garlic is a cool season crop that is planted in the fall and then harvested the following summer. And it's during these early summer weeks that garlic actually gives us a couple of clues of when it's ready to harvest. The first thing we do is we look to the lower leaves. As these lower leaves begin to fail and turn brown, they actually start to form a protective sheath around the newly forming bulb. This is a sure sign that bulb formation is actually underway. I've found that with softneck varieties in my garden, almost all the foliage actually begins to fail and turn brown, but many people experience different. With hardneck varieties, they actually produce what is called a scape about a month to 6 weeks before harvesting. The scape is simply the flowering structure of garlic, and it's usually only in the hardneck varieties that we see them. Either way, simply unearth around a test garlic in the early summer and see how those bulbs are progressing. It's great because we can actually get a sneak peek at that underground production before it's even ready. Try to pull out the bulbs from the bulb itself rather than yanking on the stem, even though it's tempting. When the garlic crops are getting close to being done, I always stop watering and I do try to harvest on a dry day well after any rains have fallen. Not only do the bulbs tend to come out much easier with dry soil, but also this helps with the curing and drying process. Wet bulbs can take much longer to dry and cure at best, and even experience rot at worst. These guys that I'm taking out now are a touch on the wet side, so use that as a gauge. I've noticed this year that container garlic really does tend to grow the bulbs faster. The ones I have in a low raised bed are at least a month behind, yet they were planted the exact same day as these container garlic back in October. You can see that the hardneck varieties of garlic actually have quite extensive root systems. Because of this, these guys tend to do better in the colder climates and can take a harsher winter. Something to think about when you're choosing your garlic varieties to grow. Not a bad harvest. I started with 12 cloves in this 4-foot herb planter, and I got 10 big bulbs out of it. Given that space in my garden is always at a premium, switching all my garlic to these small planter setups isn't out of the question for next year. It's time to dry. Garlic, to be set up for storage, needs to be dried properly. The way we do this is to simply hang the garlic in bundles of 10 or 15 bulbs in a dry outdoor covered area, such as a shed, a barn, a breezeway, a carport, or even an overhang. They can't be in direct sun, and they obviously must be sheltered from the rain. Depending on temperature, humidity of the air, and the moisture level of the bulbs themselves, this can take anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks. After just 2 days, all of that wet soil that was covering the roots and the bulb itself just falls off without much effort. After about 4 weeks, the bulb on the right is ready to clean for storage. I start by cutting off the stem down to about an inch. Next, I nip off the roots as short as I can cut them. Finally, you want to remove the outermost paper layer, maybe 2 layers if need be, until you reach a perfectly pristine, clean layer of that paper covering. That garlic bulb right there will store easily for 4 to 6 months. Now, let's look at an example of a bulb that didn't dry properly. This bulb could have easily been left to hang and dry for another 2 weeks. As you can see, the dirty outer coating is nearly impossible to separate from the clean inner ones. Even resorting to going one more layer deep doesn't produce any less frustrating results. After about 6 minutes, it's clear that you need to dry your bulbs properly before cleaning. But what about long-term storage? As cured dried bulbs, garlic can easily last 4 to 6 months in a cool, dry, dark spot. But that will only take us to December, maybe January, a full 6 months before the next year's garlic is ready to harvest. So, for a longer term solution, we need to freeze. It's not hard at all, and the first step is to pull all the individual cloves apart from the bulb. Again, the drier and more properly the bulb is cured, the easier this step is. Next, we gotta slice off that rooted end of the cloves. Just a tiny thin slice right where the dried out bud is. This will allow us to peel off all the paper, revealing that perfect singular garlic clove inside. We plop that into our Tupperware container and move on to the next one. Same thing, slice off the dried out end piece and peel off all the layers of the protective paper. Last one. Stored like this in your freezer, these cloves will last for at least a year. And that will take us perfectly right to next year's harvest. How about that? Using these two methods to store my garlic means I never have to buy it and I'm never without it. Harvesting and curing in July, the air-dried garlic easily stores until the following January or February. As a family, we use roughly 1 garlic head per week, so if we dry and keep back 25 to 30 heads, we're golden. That just leaves around 5 months until the fresh garlic is available again the following year, which allows us to save only around 15 to 20 heads using the freezing method. Get into a rhythm with your container garlic, and you just might find that it becomes your most reliable, most predictable crop in your garden. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. If you're getting value in this and the other series that I'm doing on YouTube, hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons if you'd be so kind, and I'll see you in the next video.